starts now.
We want to get right to some breaking news we're following out of Glendale tonight. A massive police investigation is taking place right now. This is near 43rd Avenue and Peoria. Officers have a parking area roped off with police tape. These are live pictures coming from Sky 12. We're told DPS will be taking over this investigation from the DEA. We're working to learn more about what happened. Be sure and stay with 12 News and 12news.com for the latest updates.
We begin tonight with the very latest on new avian flu cases in the valley. Today, we learned 5 animals at Wildlife World Zoo in the West Valley have died from the virus. Good evening and thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 10. I'm Kariba Devine.
I'm Mark Curtis. County health officials say the risk to the public remains low, but the zoo is on high alert tonight. And as 12 News journalist Chase Golightly learned, they're making big changes to keep the animals, workers, and visitors all safe.
This is the first time any animals at Wildlife World Zoo have tested positive for avian flu. Now the county health department and CDC are getting involved.
It happened fast. 5 animals, including a mountain lion and a cheetah at Wildlife World Zoo, all dead from avian flu within a matter of days.
There wasn't much that could be done for them.
Chrissy Hayden, the zoo's president, had heard of other cases in the valley and knew this was a real possibility.
We have over 6,000 animals here, so it's something we had to take very seriously from the start.
Believing it was a wild bird that flew into the zoo and spread the virus to 6 animals here.
We immediately started working with the Maricopa County Health Department, the CDC. We implemented different protocols just as preventative measures,
including quarantining animals that were exposed. Workers now heavily sanitizing the enclosures and performing regular tests on animals to prevent the spread. They've also stopped all interactive animal encounters to keep guests safe. As for workers, Hayden says about 25 of them were in close contact with the infected animals and are now being monitored by the county health department for symptoms.
There have been no human cases associated with this exposure.
Dr. Nick Staub with the county says avian flu symptoms consist of body aches, fever, and red irritated eyes. There have now been 2 outbreaks of the virus in Maricopa County with no human infections. However, in Pinal County, 2 residents did test positive and have since recovered.
Those individuals who are getting sick do have that close contact with these animals, whether it's dairy cattle or sick birds. So the general risk to the population remains low.
Even with the low risk, Hayden says Wildlife World Zoo will still be on high alert, knowing it can happen again.
We are going to continue our close monitoring of these animals and do everything we can to ensure their safety moving forward.
Hayden tells me the zoo will remain open with all of these precautions in place to keep everyone safe. We're in Litchfield Park. Chase Golightly, 12 News.
All right, Chase, thanks. Tonight we have an update on a story we've been covering almost for a week now. A missing teen out of Gilbert has been found safe. According to Gilbert police, 14-year-old Liam McGee was found just after 1 o'clock this morning after a silver alert was issued to find him. He'd been missing since last Thursday after leaving his home. We're told someone recognized Liam from the silver alert and notified police. New at 10, President-elect Donald Trump has announced that Kari Lake will serve as the next director for Voice of America. The incoming president making the announcement in a post on Truth Social tonight, saying that she'll be appointed by whoever he picks to head up the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Voice of America is a federally funded organization that serves as an international news broadcaster in over 40 languages. Lake has yet to officially comment on the announcement.
Also new tonight, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors voted today to settle a lawsuit filed by protesters who were criminally charged as gang members. The lawsuit stems from public protests in downtown Phoenix following the death of George Floyd back in 2020. It alleged that the law enforcement fabricated evidence and accused protesters of being part of a fictional street gang. Former Maricopa County Attorney Alistair Adele, who is named in the lawsuit, ultimately dropped those charges and resigned from office less than a year later. The $6 million settlement comes after the U.S. Department of Justice concluded that Phoenix police violated protesters' rights to free speech. Hours of newly obtained footage is giving us a new perspective on a murder investigation involving a former University of Arizona football player. Devontae Neal has since pleaded guilty and is now beginning his 20-year prison sentence. 12 News journalist Bianca Bono has been sorting through all of those videos, and she is joining us now from the newsroom tonight. And Bianca, what did you see?
Well, Caribe, this murder happened in November of 2017. Brian Burns was gunned down by Devontae Neal when he was driving near the I-10 and Elliott Road in Tempe. It took investigators until 2022 to make an arrest. But now we're getting a look at that investigation, including the initial interrogation of Devontae Neal. Devontae Neal, a former Chaparral High School and University of Arizona football player, now starting his 20-year prison sentence for the November 2017 murder of 25-year-old Brian Burns, the man dating the mother of his child. Neal pleaded guilty earlier this year, but newly obtained footage shows that hasn't always been his position.
I'm confident in myself that I didn't do it. I know that I didn't do it. I know where I was.
Denying involvement in this initial interview with MCSO detectives on November 16th, 5 days after the murder.
Is there a way I can get we can talk about this with a lawyer or something like that?
Body camera footage showing the start of the investigation.
Driver's side, 5 shots.
As police were called out to the crime scene in Tempe around 3 a.m. on November 11th.
He hits him. I hear him unload on him.
Witnesses telling police they saw the driver of a silver car sideswipe, then shoot at the driver of a red Dodge Challenger. Burns was that driver, and he had been shot multiple times.
Sounds like we got gunshots inside the side of the car.
Soon after, detectives were interviewing Burns' girlfriend. She told them about strange text messages she had received that day and the night before from Neal, the father of her child, warning her to be safe, then saying he had seen her friend on the news.
Back when me and my child's father both first broke up, 3 years ago, he found out that I was talking to Brian, and it was a really big deal. You know, he's like, he felt like his family was stolen from him.
Immediately, Neal becoming an investigative lead. The silver vehicle seen by witnesses was tracked down and was registered in Neal's mother's name. Still, Neal continued to live his life, coaching at Higley High School, then becoming an assistant football coach at Idaho State University. It wasn't until November of 2021, 4 years after Burns was killed, that MCSO obtained cell phone data placing Neal at the scene of the crime the night it happened. The data also revealing shocking searches from Neal's phone, showing in the days leading up to the shooting, he had researched chloroform and shooting ranges. In the hours following the shooting, repeatedly checking local news websites for articles about Burns' death. In March of 2022, MCSO submitted its case to the county attorney's office, and 2 months later, Neal was arrested in Idaho, pleading guilty to second-degree murder earlier this year. Now, 7 years after a life was lost, Neal is beginning his 20-year sentence behind bars. And Neal was originally charged with first-degree murder, but ultimately pleaded guilty to murder in the second degree. His projected release date from prison is May of 2042. We're live in the newsroom tonight. Bianca Bono, 12 News.
Bianca, thanks. All right, let's switch to weather with meteorologist Lindsay Riley. Lynn's kind of a cloudy day across the valley, but I think most of us probably liked it.
Yeah, I don't mind a cloudy day. Occasionally, we're hanging on to these clouds through the overnight, and then even into early tomorrow morning, it will be a cloudy start. So you can see we're pretty socked in still. More clouds off to the west in Southern California that'll keep streaming in through the overnight. But the big change for tomorrow is another windy day up in the mountains. It's not going to be as windy here in the lower deserts, but up in the mountains between about noon and 4 p.m. Gusts ranging anywhere from 25 to 35 miles per hour. There are no current wind advisories, but you're going to notice the breeze. Here's a look at our future cast. We have 2 storm systems that are going to make their way into the Pacific Northwest, bringing mountain snow, valley rainfall. That first wave pushes in over the next 24 hours. The second wave moves in on Friday. And then as we get towards Saturday, you'll see more active weather across the Midwest as well. All that moisture that you see across the Pacific Northwest and California is going to miss us. We are looking at a completely dry week with temperatures moderating nearing the weekend. More on that in my full forecast. Caribe.
All right, Lindsay, thank you. The child who died after being crushed by a statue at the Arizona Biltmore last month has been identified as 8-year-old Luke Lynette of Iowa. The boy was visiting Phoenix with his family for Thanksgiving when one of the hotel's statues fell over and crushed him. Phoenix police ruled the injury as an accident. The Lynette family attorney released a statement today saying, in part, there is simply no excuse or explanation for such a tragedy. And although we understand no one intended this result, it should have been foreseeable and expected. The Arizona Biltmore also shared a statement tonight saying that they are saddened by the loss and they are committed to providing a safe and secure environment for their guests.
Still ahead tonight.